I'm going to analyse the EAL article Mobile Concerns, and instead of going through and analysing everything like I normally do, I'm going to analyse a selection of techniques that will help the EAL student be able to form their three main arguments that the EAL exam requires. So to begin with, EAL students are required to do this note taking, and any of my students will know that I prefer to do this process by breaking the arguments into three like this. The reason being is because I feel like that note-taking part of the exam is very valuable preparation time for the writing part. So if you already have your ideas organized into three arguments, it's very easy to transition into writing them up into an introduction, 3 paragraphs, and a short conclusion. So in order to do it this way, at the very top I've put here hands-free equals do not ban. And my 3 arguments that I've chosen is that the author feels that hands-free mobile is necessary, that they feel that banning is illogical, so banning equals illogical, and there are better solutions. Unnecessary, we've got daily life, security, no landline, yes mobile. When you don't have landline, you can use your mobile. Good for emergencies like with children, and raises the question of family versus law. Banning equals illogical. So reactionary, no to handheld, but yes to hands-free, still in control, minimal distractions similar to GPS, passenger, drinking or singing, and hard to police. And over here we've got better solutions. The APG says to ban, but their report is arguable. 8% is a small figure. Fatalities have actually come down, whereas a worthwhile spend of money would be to fix roads, potholes and poor shoulders. And all of these arguments lead towards the contention that they should not ban hands-free because it's not helpful. So at the top here, you've got the topic, and down here, the contention. So again, don't forget to have a look at the background information, and you can use that as the basis for your introduction. So as we go through, this isn't actually my writing here. I've photocopied this piece from another student. I'm going to have a look at the first argument first. So if we can remember, I had put that as being that mobile phones are necessary. So I'm going to have a look at a few techniques that illustrates the mobile phones as being necessary. One is here, the whole imagine this, your 7-year-old has been injured playing sport. So by having this scenario, it really helps the reader to visualize where this situation, the mobile phones, the hands-free being banned, would be really inconvenient to them. Plus the fact that they've chosen a 7-year-old, a child who's really young, and also a female child might be likely to evoke more sympathy and more concern. We picture, I guess, perhaps a cute young girl who's been injured, therefore creating sympathy and a sense that we need the use of the hands-free. So if, for example, it was a teenage boy, for some reason society might not care as much as if it was a young girl. Don't ask why, that's just the case. Now over here, living with the guilt of your child suffering when she most needed you. So this is really emotive language, and it's an appeal to family values. You know, no parent would want to abandon their child in their moment of suffering. Therefore, they would do anything, including supporting hands-free devices, if that's going to protect their child. What parent would want to do that? Okay, so this is obviously rhetorical since it's been accompanied by this appeal to family values that positions the parents to agree with the writer that they would not want to be in that position. Still sticking with the first argument of mobile phones being necessary, we can see on the second page that they've used the cliche, part and parcel of daily life. Now, that particular cliche or idiom, if we have a look over here, if something is part and parcel, it is a necessary part which cannot be avoided. So cliches are used under the assumption that the readers are familiar with those expressions, therefore it makes the message very clear and understandable to them. Down here, they say any desire to reduce the road toll is admirable. Now, this is important because it's showing that they're not unbiased. They're not ignoring the intentions behind this move of banning the hands-free phones. And that helps us to see them as sort of balanced, and the fact that they have considered the safety aspect, the road toll aspect in formulating their contention. So they're not completely biased. And notice as well that in providing their argument that it's very necessary, they use a lot of inclusive language. They provide us with a sense of security and peace of mind. So that helps to make the readers feel like they're being directly related to by the writer, and they're on the writer's side. So it's almost as if they're having a discussion together where they're in agreement that yes, these phones are very, very useful to us. All right, so let's move forward and have a look at the next argument, which would be, back up here, that banning is an illogical move. So this one, coming down here, we're going to have a look at, let's go to find it. Over here, when they say, but then the same could be said of looking at a GPS, talking to a passenger, taking a sip of water, or singing the latest hit on the radio. So here they're using an appeal to logic, because, I mean, quite simply, it would be very much a similar distraction to look at a GPS or talk to a passenger as it would be to talk on a hands-free device. So that will appeal to the reader's logical thinking, and they will see that it is therefore illogical to ban when they distract in a similar sense. Notice how the writer also lists these. When you start listing things, it gives the reader a sense that there's a great number of reasons, and this is just the beginning of the list. So over here, are we going to ban these perfectly normal activities too? So again, because that's accompanied by the listing and the appeal to logic, and the fact that it's worded as being perfectly normal, it would seem to be irrational to ban perfectly normal activities. Okay, again, they ask a very similar question further down, which is an appeal to logic as well, which is how easy would it be to differentiate between someone talking on a hands-free mobile and talking to a passenger or singing a song? So again, they position the reader to agree that that would be very difficult to differentiate, and see how being able to police this theory would be rather difficult. Now, the image is a good one to talk about in accompaniment to the paragraph about how banning is illogical. We can see in the image, it's a fairly simple silhouette. So that means that this face, while we can see it's most likely a woman, could be anybody, okay, because she doesn't have any distinguishable facial features. But we do notice, because of the silhouette, the hands-free device really stands out to us, making it evident that that's what this picture is about. And notice how her profile shows that she's obviously keeping her eyes directly on the road, and we can see her hand is firmly upon the steering wheel. And this ties in with the caption, focused and in control. So from this image, we can see that wearing the hands-free device does not impede her ability to be focused and in control. So it's a way of visually demonstrating the argument that the writer is putting forward. Okay, on to the third argument that you'd want to have a look at, which is there are better solutions. There's quite a bit for this one, but what I would encourage you to do is ignore things like the rhetorical questions, inclusive language and everything, because you would have already mentioned those in the other paragraphs. So one thing we can have a look at is the repetition of all. Accident Prevention Group insists that all forms of phone use by drivers should be banned in all vehicles, and then they have down here all forms of mobile communication. So this notion of all makes it sound a little bit sort of extreme or excessive, because it's very total, it's very finite, there's no room for movement. And so the repetition of all can may sort of emphasize how extensive this is, and the readers might be inclined to something that is so, I guess, all-inclusive. Notice the italics over arguably. That seeks to undermine the claims of the group APG. By the way, including the data from the APG group shows that David James over here has done his research and he knows what the opposition is saying. Now, over here, understandably, is kind of like reassuring language. So those people who are feeling outraged at this decision, the writer is reassuring them, saying, you have a right to feel outraged. We're on your side here. Really assertive language that also attacks, like reactionary and completely unnecessary, makes it clear what the writer's stance is on the APG's their law that they want to put through, or their ban. And so the strong emotions encourages the reader to empathize and share those strong emotions. Okay. Down here, by having this example, like potholes and poor shoulders and everything else like that, they might be common complaints that the readers might have when they're driving. When they're driving, they're probably not considering their mobile phones to be an inconvenience. They're more likely to be considering poor roads as inconvenient. So this equips them with sort of an alternative solution or a call to action that may be more practical or more beneficial than the one the APG is opposing, and one that the readers would definitely be likely to rally behind, since they as drivers have experienced these inconveniences. And also, the brackets here taps into a common driver prejudice, which is this idea that bans and fines, speeding fines are just revenue raising. So it's saying here the ban would actually make money for the state through fines, makes the reader a bit more outraged as well, ties into their prejudice of the fine system in general, and sees this as perhaps it's just a money-making endeavour, and they will start to feel a bit outraged towards the government. So they would be the sort of techniques I would be likely to include under paragraphs dealing with those arguments.